And welcome, guys, to the live stream. Please be patient with us as we get the event started, and you can leave comments in the comment section, and we'd be happy to share that with the family and friends during the broadcast today. So thank you for joining us.
As I still reflecting light, and I see myself in you. Now I learn from my fellow man's compassion, and I learn from the sea. The things will get just where they need to go, and I'll ride currents through this world till I'm drop these stones in the river. One for my love could not hold anymore, so I let go.
And again, thank you for joining the broadcast. You guys can leave comments, and we'll display them for the family and friends.
Carpenter, carpenter, won't you build us a home? One true and sweet where our children may grow. Built on a foundation made of stone. Carpenter, carpenter, won't you build us a home? My darling, sweet darling, I will do what I can. Oh, to build you a home with my own two hands. I'll build it strong, build it tall, so you may see it throughout the land. My darling, sweet darling, I will draw up the plan. Carpenter, carpenter, oh, a family raised. In the yard of our homes where our children will play. We will thank the Lord for the rest rest of our day. Carpenter, carpenter, oh, what family array. My darling, sweet darling, I will work the bitter cold. Hold a frame up to the walls on which a roof they will hold. We will sit on our porch and the stories will be told about a carpenter and his bride and the hand-built home. Carpenter, carpenter, we shed blood, sweat, and tears. We will share this home for the rest of our years. When it's stormy outside, we will draw each other near. For with our house built on the rock, we need not fear. My darling, sweet darling, there is little more to do. For I finished the walls and I painted them blue. I will carry you through the door of our house so new. My darling, sweet darling, I built this house for you. Carpenter, carpenter, we shed blood, sweat, and tears. We will share this home for the rest of our years. When it's stormy outside, we will draw each other near. Oh, with our house built on the rock, we need not fear. My darling, sweet darling, there is little more to do. For I finished the walls and I painted them blue. And I will carry you through the door of our house so new. My darling, sweet darling, I built this house for you. My darling, sweet darling, I built this house for you.
Thanks, guys. That was amazing. Good afternoon, friends. On behalf of Kate and her family and Adam's family, I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you for being here today. I'm Kyle Carnes, and I have known Kate somewhere since early high school. And 7 years ago, I had the privilege to officiate Kate and Adam's wedding. And on that day, we celebrated profound love. And today, we again celebrate profound love. Friends, I want to do something with you, and I'm just going to say I hate it when whoever's up here does this to me, and I'm sitting out there, so just bear with me. But I invite you to breathe. Breathe. I hate it when speakers do this, but just let go of the awkwardness. Just breathe. I know that my body has been tense, and my guess is that many of your bodies are tense as well. So breathe. Feel the air filling your lungs. We are here together now. Breathe. Even though this is not an occasion that any of us want, we breathe intentionally so that we can become present with one another in this space. You have permission to feel all the things in this time. Receive that permission to feel all the things. Breathe. Look around you and notice that you are not alone in this space. Breathe. I have just a few words to say about loss and grief and mourning, and then we will get to stories and music. You will hear many stories of Adam's life this afternoon, and I wish that I had more of my own to share, to be honest. When Kate and Adam were married, my family lived in Wisconsin, and we were having babies and working there. And then when we moved back to Michigan, they moved to Ann Arbor so that Adam could go to school, and then they had babies. And it just seemed like the timing of our lives was such that even though we were long-time friends with Kate, we never had much of a chance to get to know Adam as well as we would have liked. In fact, we were just able, finally, it seems like, to coordinate our lives a little better so our whole families could share the friendship that my wife and I have shared with Kate all these years. Each of us mourn and grieve our own pieces of Adam today. And it's good to name what those pieces are. And some of these pieces are now here on this altar that we have built, symbols of who Adam is and was and the life that he lived. Today, in particular, I mourn the nascent friendship that was being born, but will now never get to be. I wonder what pieces of Adam each of you mourn in particular today. As Kate was looking through some of Adam's things, she kept coming across a particular quote, something most of us have likely never heard before. It's a quote by the 20th century French sailor and author named Bernard Moitessier. In the 1960s, Bernard Moitessier twice held the record for the longest nonstop passage by a yacht as he circumnavigated the globe. He traveled 37,455 nautical miles in 10 months, either on his own or it was just him and his wife. Bernard said that the voyage was as much a spiritual journey as it was a sailing adventure. He regularly sailed out of the Marseille View port, or the old port of Marseille, France, right on the Mediterranean, and the port has been in use since antiquity. The quote that Kate kept finding is here printed on the order of service, and it says this: "Deep in my gut, I knew I had to leave and fast. Every fiber of my body longed for wide open spaces. Raise the anchor before it gets stuck in the mud of Marseille's View port. Don't ask many how questions. Don't try to solve impossible problems the first time out. Music has its own rhythm, and so does immensity. Everything becomes clear when you're at sea. That's when you have the time to see what's true and what isn't. make sail, and the rest will follow. I'm told that Adam sent this quote to friends to encourage them. It was in a document full of his favorite quotes. There were screenshots of it, handwritten notes about this quote. And it seems that whatever purpose Adam had for this quote while he lived, it has the potential to offer us something today as well. There are no answers to the questions we ask. Don't ask too many how questions, it says. Don't try to solve the impossible problems the first time out. Even more than the question how many times have each of you asked why? Why Adam? Why now? Why like this? Why when he had so much life to live and so much to offer? Why? And there are no sufficient answers. And the question of fairness is never far away, particularly when life seems so cruel. And yet, even though there are no answers, have any of us found a way to keep our hearts and bodies from asking these questions? I have not. I have found it important to separate loss from grief, though. They are not the same thing. And it's easy to get lost when we believe that they are the same thing. When we lose something, someone, particularly when the loss is tragic, devastating, the experience is so severe that it can feel as though we have been stuck with grief, as though it has been done to us. We've had grief foisted upon us, rammed down our throats and into our lives without our say. But the reality is that that's not grief. It's the loss that comes up against us, the absence where there had been physical presence. And for this reason, I found it's important to hold loss and grief separately in two different hands, even though they arrive together. The loss is what smacked us across the face, sent us to Hades town against our will, sucked the air right out our lungs, plucked our hearts right out of our chests. Death and loss do these things, and it really, really sucks. The first draft of this had expletives in it, but I figured you'd all get distracted on the expletives at that moment, so I cut that part out. It really sucks. Grief, however, grief on the other hand is actually the gift that comes with loss. I know to say that grief is a gift can sound strange, even stupid, and yet grief is the ocean that continues to wash over us, reminding us of the love that we've shared. And just like the ocean, grief has its days of calm, the steady pushing of the waves against the sand, reminding us of both loss and love. And we know there are days when grief is a God-forsaken hurricane, when we cannot breathe and cannot stand. And it's every weather pattern in between. Grief is the water, the source of life, reminding us that love does not die. Loss takes our breath away. Grief is the gift. And mourning is a choice. To mourn our grief and our losses doesn't happen automatically. We are given a choice whether or not we do the work of mourning. And it is work. Emotional, spiritual, physical work. The work of mourning is the process through which we metabolize our grief back into the living of each of the days that we have left. Forever changed and forever loved. As we celebrate Adam's life today with stories and music, we do the work of mourning. As we share our laughter and our tears, we do the work of mourning. As we embrace one another and grieve deeply, we do the work of mourning. As we continue to dance wildly and with abandon, we honor Adam and do the work of mourning. For we are told that those who do this work will be comforted. And the joy with which Adam lived this life, a joy that knew its own loss and grief, is a joy that will return to us and lead us on. Friends, in this time, as we share stories and music, may we celebrate the life that Adam lived and the way that he lives on still.
Hello, I'm Drew. I'm Adam's brother-in-law and Kate's brother. As many of you may know, Adam found inspiration from Mr. Rogers. So Fred Rogers' life purpose was to make a positive and lasting impact on the lives of children and families by fostering kindness, empathy, understanding, and self-compassion. So I'd say that's a pretty good man to draw inspiration from. This afternoon, I'd like to read you a few remarks from Mr. Rogers. And here's the first one. When I say it's you I like, I'm talking about the part of you that knows that life is far more than anything you can ever see or hear or touch. That deep part of you that allows you to stand for those things without which humankind cannot survive. Love that conquers hate, peace that rises triumphant over war, and justice that proves more powerful than greed. And here's another. When I was very young, most of my childhood heroes wore capes, flew through the air, or picked up buildings with one arm. They were spectacular and got a lot of attention. But as I grew, my heroes changed so that now I can honestly say that anyone who does anything to help a child is a hero of mine. And Adam was that. He was a wonderful father and uncle, and like Mr. Rogers, all kids who knew him loved him. Yet Adam didn't just help and serve people who were easy to help and serve. Children are pure and vulnerable and cute, usually. When they wake you up at 4:45 before the celebration of life, it's a little less cute, but it also takes a hero to help and serve adults. Adults who are complicated and flawed and who have been hurt by the world by no fault of their own. And Adam dedicated his life to serving them too. And that's another reason why he's a hero. And here's one more quote. As human beings, our job in life is to help people realize how rare and valuable each one of them really is. That each of us has something that no one else has or ever will have, something inside that is unique to all time. It's our job to encourage each other to discover that uniqueness and to provide ways of developing its expression. So Adam was rare and one of a kind and valuable and had something that no one else has. And he shared it with all of us. And it will never stop to echo through us, and I will be forever grateful for that. Thank you.
Adam, my son, my beautiful boy. Whom I miss more than I can ever say, was one of those wild men who caught and sang out the sun. He spread the joy he felt to all who knew him. He was full of calm exuberance. He was sweet and gentle, open and warm, and full of understanding. He would be the first to comfort and offer help. His was a life of strong commitment to family, friends, and community. He connected with people with his radiant smile. If you knew him, you knew he would be there for you, as he was with his mother in the last years of her life. He was a natural healer. He was resourceful and creative and a fighter. As a toddler, he rearranged kitchen chairs to get to the cookies. And in spite of his mother and I trying hard to keep toy guns out of the house, he outfoxed us. He played with the toy turtle by stuffing the soft parts with the plastic shell inside the plastic shell and turning it into a hand grenade. True story. When his first speech therapy session did not go well, he went to his next one with a plastic knife strapped to his ankle, a plastic gun in his pocket, and a bow and arrow set across his chest. But he was about 3 and ready to do battle to protect his own language. When he was about 10, he and his friends created a game they called bike polo, which consists of trying to kick a soccer ball to your teammate or through the goal while riding your bike. Collisions were inevitable, and I couldn't watch it. Adam's life was rich, fulfilled, wonderfully fulfilled by his beautiful wife, Kate, and his beautiful children, Harrison and Birdie. When he was with his family, he was the perfect daddy and husband. Professionally, he was building a burgeoning practice and exploring the use of psychedelics to psychotherapy. He was a seeker for the meaning of life, relationships, and nature. Just by the way, I'm a psychiatrist, so that is a particular application. He challenged himself in many ways. He was an artist, a locksmith, a triathlon and marathon runner. He did organic farming in Illinois, lived in Antarctica briefly, camped within the Arctic Circle with a group for a month and no running water, and planned to walk around Lake Michigan just for the adventure. A twisted ankle stopped that adventure. But above all, he loved tumbling and dancing with his kids, playing music and being with his family. Adam lived with quiet intensity. You could feel it. It was leavened by his sense of humor, by his enthusiastically having fun. His yearly gathering of good friends in Michigan in the middle of winter with no running water and little heat except what they got from the beach bonfire to connect. Oh, sorry. Stood over. His gathering of friends was to celebrate a day of being, end quotes. It was a day in which to celebrate being alive, to connect and reconnect with friends, to play music, to enjoy the camaraderie, and to be in touch with whatever spirit may guide and comfort. We celebrate his life today, even though our hearts are broken. We can never heal completely from his absence, but he will live with us, will always be there. By a sudden departed life, we feel the love that's gone. We grieve his absence 1,000 times a day.
I am Miriam, Adam's older sister. The only way I have found to endure the pain of this loss is to imagine that every memory that we share of Adam, his words, his music, his creativity, his jokes, settles within us and lives within us. So in that vein, this is from a Beloit poetry collection called Passengers. The book is up there, and I copied one of the funny ones, but I couldn't figure out how to say it because it's really visual, but you should take a look at it because it's very funny. This one's called Rippling Below. Rippling below the dark before you, a sea of black and red, of the sleep-seeking eyes that scour the ground inside the lids that block out the night. Shapes lifting, shifting in white lines of broken pictures you've seen and circles. You change like clouds on a windy day, sitting on your back and saying, "That one's a dog." And watching as the wind destroys everything except the sky is not white and blue. Instead, it's the color of blood. And the far side of things as it shifts into a million pieces without time to take it in, slipping back and diving down into half dreams and half thoughts. Catching yourself by the hand, pulling back above that black and red sea and its far off white caps, slipping more and more, and the sea of shapes and waves turns into something you cannot watch and remember until finally the sea settles and only an ocean of nothing lies in its place. This next passage is from John Muir, I believe one of Adam's very favorite writers. Nature is ever at work building and pulling down, creating and destroying, keeping everything whirling and flowing, allowing no rest, but in rhythmical motion, chasing everything in endless song, out of one beautiful form into another.
Oh, wow, there's a lot of people. Oh, yeah. I guess I should introduce myself because some of you don't know who I am. I'm Adam's brother. You know how at weddings, when people are giving speeches at the reception, there's always this subtle competition for who's known the bride or groom the longest? Well, I've known Adam all my life. The spiked bouquet. But it's true. I can't remember a time without him. So the idea of living the rest of my life without him is staggering. Because we were the product of our dad's second marriage, we had the advantage of growing up between two generations, and with the range of perspectives that brought. Our dad sheltered from air raid sirens in London, and our mom almost hitchhiked to Woodstock. We also had the gift of growing up with siblings who were much older than us, and some of our closest family friends were of our father's generation whose children were also much older. So we spent a lot of dinner parties being the only young kids there, listening to grown-up conversations and hearing grown-up jokes that we didn't really understand. We are different in a lot of ways, but our senses of humor were forged in the same furnace. Comedy and laughter and goofiness was a big part of our upbringing. And humor was a bedrock of Adam's personality. We were raised on 60s and 70s British comedy, classic Jewish comedians, Mel Brooks movies, and modern stand-up comics. Through the older generation, we also took in the absurdist humor of people who had lived through and survived World War II, people who had fled from and survived the Nazis. I think because of that, we grew up with an appreciation of how quickly things can fall apart and how important it is to spend time with people who you love and who make you happy. But even if you go through life knowing that it's precious, fleeting, and unpredictable, it doesn't make it easier when you're suddenly confronted with the reality, as we all were very recently. The outdoors and being outside was another hugely important facet of our childhood, whether in Union Pier or running around our neighborhood or visiting friends in wild places. The importance of being outside soaked into both of our souls. Throughout our lives and up to today, outside is where we both found peace and connection with the universe, both in vibrant and in desolate landscapes. And I know that Adam was immersing his own children in the sacredness of outdoor spaces. The outside is also a place where Adam revisited and strengthened the bonds of his friendships. Adam's friends are an inseparable part of him. When I was in college, I remember looking at Adam in high school and marveling at the number, range, and depth of his tight-knit friendships. And I remember thinking, how is it that this huge dork who likes to paint miniature figures and play Magic the Gathering could be so much cooler than me? I'm the older brother. I'm the one who's supposed to be cool. And the answer, both then and now, is that Adam was always authentically himself. He didn't try to change himself to fit in. He didn't deny his passions. He was confidently himself, always. This is not just a fashion accessory. He was confidently himself, and people were attracted to that. I was attracted to that. I would still say today that a significant portion of my friends were Adam's friends first, because I really wanted to be a part of what they all created. Once we got past the bickering of youth, I was constantly impressed by and proud of Adam. And I always wanted him to be impressed by me, to be proud of me, even as he annoyed the hell out of me sometimes. Good gravy. I mean, the guy was just a nightmare to try to schedule plans with. When I was first talking to our friend Sam after he died, we reflected on how large of a mark Adam has already left on this world. His influence and impact was felt everywhere he went. I had the rare and precious privilege of working with Adam for several years, and I got to see that impact firsthand. And everyone who has had the privilege of spending time with him saw it too. Through those relationships alone, he has left a mark on this world that will be felt through time. And not everybody can say that at 37. Adam was very loyal to our family and also intensely loyal to his friends. And there is a point where the boundary between family and friends starts to break down, to blur. The older you get, the more your friends mesh into family. You're likely to have had as many or more shared experiences with friends as with your family of origin. Now, that boundary has blurred even more. Now we are bound. You, Adam's friends, are bound with us. That moment that we all learned that we would lose Adam forever, a hole appeared in our hearts, in our souls. There was suddenly a nothingness, a vacuum that we all shared. And the intensity, the blinding heat, the intensity and the blinding heat of our love rushing to fill that vacuum, bound us, welded us together. We are family now. You are family now to Kate and Harrison and Bertie. And to those that love them. You friends, the greatest gift that you can give to Adam now is to stay present in his family's life. To visit as often as you'd visit if Adam was alive. To invite them to the same things you'd invite Adam to see them if you're passing through town. Because through Kate and us, his children will know their father. Through Kate and us, Adam's children will know their father, with each one of us reflecting a little bit of his being. We will be a constellation of Adam. Points of light forming the shape so that his children's minds can make the picture. We have to be a constellation of him for them. I love him, and I will always love him. And I love you, Kate, and I will always love you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Hillary, and I was Adam's mentor. I'm from New York, and in New York, we have a word for this. It's fuck. Yeah. Sorry, Kyle. I really tried to avoid that, but okay. So I have a whole thing here to talk about and all the things he did, but there's a story that I left out that you all made me think of, which was he used to send me articles. He'd text me the links all the time. And although I look lovely, I'm quite a bit older than Adam was. And I was always amazed. He has small children, and he would send me these articles. Like, how the heck can he read all this all the time? Like, I was amazed. So finally one day I just said, Adam, how do you read all this? And he laughed out loud and goes, oh, I don't read them. I just look at the titles and I think you'll like them. Okay, I'm still your mentor then. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, I met Adam. He was a first-year graduate student, and when I taught at the University of Michigan School of Social Work. And he was the only man in a class of 21 students. And
the other women, the other 20 women, would sit on this side of the classroom, and he sat by himself over here. You can imagine, as a teacher and a social worker, like, holy cow, that's a lot of red flags. Like, what's going on, right? And so in order to not do this all the time, I started teaching the entire semester from this side of the room so I could look down to him. I don't think he ever noticed even. So I would often ask him to speak for his whole gender, and he didn't seem to mind that either. So that was helpful too for the class. Yeah, so it ended up that class was the most cohesive and the most engaged class that I have ever taught to this day, which was pretty neat. And at the end of the class, we talked about how to celebrate the end of the semester. And so he actually suggested that we do a white elephant gift exchange, where you get back and forth. So everybody could take something away with them and remember the class. So that was a great idea. And of course, the party went off without a hitch, and everybody brought their stuff. And if I'm being totally honest, I have no idea what he brought, but that's okay. 2 years after that, he had graduated, and he sent me an email and asked if we could get together for coffee. He, of course, had been offered a whole bunch of jobs, right? He was brilliant. He had a lovely resume in school. He did all the right things. Plus, he was a man therapist, so everybody wants man therapists. So that was great. So he asked if we could meet for coffee and asked if I would be his supervisor. So I said yes. And as luck would have it, one of the two offices in my Nichols Arcade suite had been vacated recently. So I offered Adam the space. And he agreed to take the space, and I agreed to be a supervisor. So it seemed to work out great. We saw each other once a week for supervision. Initially, Adam saw clients mostly on off hours due to his job at the School of Engineering. Then, as he felt more confident, he transitioned to more full-time work as a therapist. Around this time, we began to chat more informally outside of supervision. And this is where the speech gets tough. And this is when I discovered that actually he was my platonic soulmate. And we were supposed to work together to infinity. I often was caught off guard by the depth of Adam's knowledge. My favorite thing about him was I'd say something that I thought was kind of random, and he'd say, "Oh yeah, I love monarch butterflies too." And then he'd tell me the entire migration pattern of the monarch butterfly. He'd be like, wow. So he amazed me. We had plans for future trainings. He was trained in psychedelic integration, and he would have finished his somatic experiencing practitioner's certificate next year. And then together we were going to take internal family systems trainings, which is another, it's just a bunch of initials anyway, for those of you who aren't in the know. So anyway, and he loved being a therapist. Like, we could talk endlessly about clients and about human behavior and what we thought and the ideas, and just forever. We'd be late to things all the time. Like, we'd be like, oh shit, we gotta go. So the hardest part about being a good therapist is knowing when to push and when to rest. And Adam understood this instinctively. He had a natural ability to connect to his clients. He had a therapeutic touch that he was just starting to grasp. Adam even drank his cans of LaCroix. I'm sure you guys all know about his LaCroix habit. And he would drink them to the side when you were talking to him, so he could still look at you, right? He didn't want to, that's how important full engagement was to him. And yeah, it was so important. So Adam would want all of us to practice that level of engagement in our lives every day. Adam loved nature, and in particular, rocks. So if you've ever been in his office or you've ever worked with him, you would notice that his rocks are everywhere. And he was so excited because then now his rocks were tax deductible because he had them in his office. He was so excited about that. So as a commitment to Adam, there's a bowl of rocks over by the table of pictures, and everyone is welcome to take one, just to remember Adam and how much he loved life and the diversity of life. So yeah. Yeah, so I will really miss, sorry, my friend and my colleague and my platonic soulmate. He was so good to have in that space with me all the time. So thank you. Whew. Thank you.
Well, what a pleasure seeing so many of you fine folks with us here tonight. How about we tell you a tale? We've been traveling companions through this wild landscape for many years now. We're now 4, but we had a 5th, a fellow that went by Adam. He left us about a month back for reasons we'll never really understand. We woke at first dawn to find the embers in the fire pit and fresh footsteps leading north.
We were close friends of Adam through the many years that we've been traveling together, and we love him still. And though he's gone on ahead, we often pass our long days by telling the legends and tall tales of his life.
Our friend was a great mystic, a man of multitudes. Some call him a prophet, a spirit guide, a manifester of wonderment, and an intermediary between the earth and the divine.
Some call him a derelict, a vagabond, a trickster schemer, wreaking havoc and bringing merriment to the devil's kind.
Some knew him as a song and dance man with nimble fingers, tunes that tickle the ear, and a real face for the motion pictures.
Some call him a homesteader and a teacher, sharing the gifts of his studies with weary souls, both young and old.
Adam had always been a leader in our group, and our path can now be hard to find without him here to point us on the right course. We find ourselves looking deep into the night sky and deep into the memories of our time with Adam, searching for signs and direction. Adam and I have been friends since we were 13 years old. As many of you know, we lived next door to each other. In those early years of our friendship, middle school into high school, we'd have a tradition of sorts. Adam would call me up late at night and ask if I wanted to meet on his front steps. We'd rendezvous there, Adam likely polishing off his 4th or 5th can of Coca-Cola for the day. It was Coke back then, the pre-LaCroix days. And we'd look up at the stars. Well, it was Chicago, so it was like 5 stars, but nevertheless, we'd have hour-long chats about the universe, existence, life, death, all that existential stuff. Adam and I have always been close, but I think we cemented what would be a lifelong bond on those steps, speaking in the way that comes so easily when you're young. But also, Adam never shied away from the existential parts of our lives on this earth. His whole life was committed to appreciating the mystery and the marvel of existence. Looking back on his life, you can see it in every one of his crazy schemes, ambitious plans, his unrelenting curiosity. And if you can manage to decode his god-awful handwriting enough to read anything he wrote in his journals or letters, you'll see it on every page. I always deeply admired this about Adam, and I know that I'll always remember the way that he lived his life and try my best to follow in his footsteps.
Adam was by no means ready to leave this world. Kate, Harrison, and Bertie meant everything to him. But it's true Adam was comfortable reflecting on the topic of death. A few years ago, he texted me these words. And yeah, death is life. We just don't think of it as such in our mainstream culture. It's like anything else in this world, another transition to prepare for. Adam once said that at his funeral, he wanted to be remembered for his accomplishments, but also his failures. Well, living as Adam's roommate for many years, I would often remind him of his many failures. And I thought I'd do him the honor of sharing one of those failures with you now. Ah, yes, the legendary tale of Adam's epic quest to hike around Lake Michigan on foot. It was a spectacle to behold. This, to be clear, is not a thing that people do. It would take him months to complete and involve Adam having to camp overnight in Gary, Indiana. Nevertheless, he had meticulously prepared, carefully mapping his route and acquiring special gear for the adventure. Prior to his departure, he took several days to brief me on how to handle all his administrative responsibilities during his absence. This included managing his multiple credit cards, some or all of which carried debt, attending to his mail, and handling various banking, stock, and mutual fund accounts. He left detailed notes for me, assuring me that we would burn all records upon his return to safeguard his privacy. Just days before the grand expedition, Adam had a hiccup. He decided to showcase his drunk tightrope walking skills and promptly busted his shit. The following week, on the very first day of his several-month-long journey, Adam managed to cover roughly 15 miles, a significant achievement with all his gear in tow. But nature had other plans. Thunder and lightning crashed his camp on a precarious bluff in Highland Park, still within Cook County. The next fateful morning, day 2, my phone rang, and it was Adam, weeping and pleading for rescue. Although our relationship was primarily characterized by humor and laughter, I asked him a serious question. Do you want some tough love right now? Or should I just come and get you? Upon hearing his choice, I rushed off in the Black Dragon, my car, to pick him up. As he sheepishly climbed in the car, I couldn't resist teasing him or giving up after the first day. Off we went, though, laughing and crying about it, stopping to pick up banh mi sandwiches, his favorite, and setting fire to the administrative instructions he left me to protect his privacy. But as we all know, this was far from the last of Adam's epic schemes. He hadn't even left to become a janitor in Antarctica yet. But one of Adam's gifts was his ability to dream big, fall way short, and then get back up and dream big again.
Many moons ago, I heard that Adam and Gareth had created a new holiday during an especially romantic weekend at Adam's cabin in Michigan. They called it Thanksgiving-mas, conjured on the winds of their own curious self-amusement. I immediately wanted in. Oh, the glorious possibilities. Adam was a genuine creative amplifier and had a thirst to make the ordinary interesting. I had the utmost confidence Adam would take the bait to develop this fictional holiday further. In fact, it quickly escalated into the full-blown collaborative genesis of what we dubbed the Day of Being, a vernal feast centered around the creation and burning of an effigy, which historically Adam would light with a flaming arrow. And as the scripture says, the burning pyre would open a portal to allow in the being which cannot be named. This holiday eventually acquired a wealth of ridiculous rituals. We chased absurd fantasy, but we also chased something deeply human, a kind of majesty at the edge of experience. I am grateful for this time with Adam, a cherished kindred spirit, egging each other on towards increasingly grandiose ideas and creative possibilities. With Adam, there was no why, just yes, and? In an email introducing the Day of Being, Adam once wrote, "There is much to be said of chaos, of uncertainty. The unknown inspires fear and drives us into hermitdom. For 4 years, we have gathered upon the shores of Lake Michigan, frozen, thawed, to rejoice in the immensity, to cleanse ourselves of fear and ordain ourselves in beauty. We have constructed a portal each year to allow the continuation of time, to thread the ancestral path into the present and burn in the glory of being alive and all its love and suffering. We gather as a band of strangers, of family, crossing the wide expanse to join together in our rejoicing and yell among the empty mist that we are here, alive and filled with life. We are the current amalgamation of everything before us, and we meet to meditate upon the present before disintegrating into the cosmos of the future. There is no mandate, there is no right, no wrong. There is only the portal, constructed with hands and spontaneous inspiration, and this we celebrate before it comes to a fiery end." Adam's sentiments drove the spirit of the Day of Being, and his family's lake house became the annual magnet that brought together our closest friends, the friends we've known since childhood and who we've come to love as family. And it was important to Adam that as our lives evolved, so too would the Day of Being, encircling the spouses, children, parents, and friends of friends in an ever-changing net of celebration. While life has scattered our friends to the four corners of the country, the Day of Being, with all the glory Adam helped manifest, has been the force that brought us together. It's simply too good to miss. But for all our musings, we never formulated what the Day of Being scripture decreed would happen when someone dies. I can only imagine Adam must have passed through the same portal that he lit with a flaming arrow year after year. The tradition of the Day of Being will most certainly continue on, and the celebration Adam was instrumental in creating will forever be a link between our world and his. For every portal we open, we know Adam will be there, just beyond the great unknown, to receive our spirited arrows.
On the last day Adam inhabited this earth, I listened to his album Michigan while driving to pick up my sons from daycare. And as I wept for my dear friend, I was struck by his song Weary Sun, which starts with a recording of cicadas and slowly passing cars. It evoked a very particular time and place during the summer of 2007, the last time Adam and I lived in the same place together. Summer 2007 was also when brood 13 of the 17-year cicadas centered around northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin awoke and blanketed the region for several weeks. Each night we spent hours playing croquet in Adam's yard and losing money to him throwing dice against the garage door. He was always happy to bankroll somebody when they ran out of money with interest. These memories are filled with the never-ending din of cicadas in the night air. They had not been seen since June 1990, when Adam turned 4 years old, and they are due again in June 2024, when he would have turned 38. Amidst those 3 cycles, Adam lived a beautifully eclectic and fulfilling life. A blink of a red eye in the long chain of cicadas who have hatched in these deciduous forests since time immemorial. But it was no blink to anyone that knew and loved Adam. To have known Adam during this short time on earth was to know somebody who glowed and hummed with great intensity. Adam's frequency attracted and engaged an amazing array of friends and admirers, and his essential humanity earned their everlasting affection. People always say that their friends are magical, and they're all telling the truth. Adam's particular magic was reflecting his glow and energy onto the people around him, allowing them to find their way with purpose. In mid-March 2020, I found out I was going to be a father for the first time. It was terrible timing, and I was overcome with a deep sense of unease. When we started telling people about the baby, Adam was the one person who I was sure could understand and reflect back my intense fear and anxiety at the prospect of bringing a child into such an uncertain world. But I also wanted him to tell me that it was going to be okay, because I always looked up to Adam, and I knew him to be honest in his assessments. Instead of commiserating and wallowing in self-pity with me, he kindly slapped some sense into me. It's incredible. It's the best thing in the whole world. You're going to love it. It's hard to see. Adam knew that having children was a great act of hope in our changing world. And he was right, of course, about everything. The last time I saw Adam was this spring. Our kids met for the first time, and we spent a whole long weekend just being dads together. What a gift to have seen him with his children, lighting the way ahead for me, just like always.
As we made camp last night, we looked again for Adam. As we recounted the stories of our time with him, we saw signs of Adam everywhere. Amidst the darkness of a cold wilderness, we saw a new constellation appear, a giant W circling the North Star. We knew it was Adam's spirit out there, traveling with us always. We'll leave you with these small cards, small maps showing how to find Adam amidst the stars. You may not reach him, but if you can locate him in the night sky, he'll point you in the right direction. Adam is out there walking ahead, scouting what wonders lay beyond the horizon, setting a safe course for us to follow.
If you happen to be sitting on the edge of the aisle, you may have noticed there's a white bucket with pens and these cards in them. I'd ask while I speak about them, if those of you who are on the end of the aisle so designated, to pick them up and to pass the bucket down your row. And as the bucket comes to you, take out one of these cards and a pen. The instructions are pretty simple, really. During the rest of the service this afternoon and throughout any other time that you carry these with you, you'll see on it, it says for Harrison and Bertie. So as we talk about constellations, one of the ways in which we will build a constellation that creates a picture of who Adam was and is by each of you writing something about Adam, but specifically addressed to his children. Something that you want them to know about their dad. And then when you have something written on it, you can put it back in a white bucket, or there'll be other like wicker baskets around sort of back here on this table where the programs were initially. And then they will be kept. And as Bertie and Harrison grow, they will have these to help have something tangible, stories that they can choose to read at their own time and pleasure about their dad. So I encourage you to please take the time to write something small, something long. You can use both sides and just find a way to put it in a bucket or a basket when you've done so.
Oh, the summertime is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme goes around the blooming river. Will you see go? And we'll all go together to big wild mountain thyme all around the blooming river. Will you go? Let's see go.
Adam and I fell in love writing letters. So today I'd like to read a letter that I wrote to Adam. Dear Adam, on June 22nd, you died. I found you laying perfectly on our bed, like you knew it was time. And you always said when it was your time, you wanted to go fast. And it was so fast. I was right next to you watching the tragedy unfold. And I really hope you heard my voice and sensed I was with you. We tried everything to save you. I tried so hard. And the doctors told the world you died June 23rd. But your heart stopped in our beautiful home. And it seems we will never have an answer for why or what happened. I know you'd be furious, Adam. This shouldn't have been, and this is all so unfair. You didn't get to say goodbye to our babies. We didn't get to say goodbye. You understood grief and trauma so deeply, and I know of all people, you understand the immensity of what I am carrying and what I will carry for the rest of my life. And I know you would hate that. Oh, Adam, the pain of missing you is too much. You were indestructible. You were supposed to live forever. You were so modest in your work and passions, and truly an introvert at heart. But the amount of lives you impacted was so vast. And I know you'd be really touched by the outpouring of love and the people in this room. But you'd also quickly brush off the tributes with jokes. I want you to know that we are doing our best to move through each day. It's really fucking hard to be a mom without you. But I am learning. You lived so effortlessly and intentionally. You lived with such purpose and direction. I hated how you could disarm me in any disagreement with compassion. And in the chaos of raising children, I wish I had lived a little bit lighter. I've been to your therapy office countless times and just sat in your sacred space, bewildered by it all. I am scouring your gifts of writing and music and arts and hoped to compile it for our children. And I found your gratitude journal that you started in 2019. Wow, Adam, 4 years of daily gratitude. Even on hard days, you found something to be grateful for, and you saw beauty in it all. Thank you for leaving us such tangible gifts. I am desperately seeking lessons you left in our children and scattered in our home. I've been channeling your patience and steadiness. You were the best dad. Harrison is coaching me to do the things the way that Dada did them. And Harrison understood when I told him you died. His little mind is so desperately trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. And he is so much like you, Adam. So smart and perceptive. And I think Birdie has accepted you are gone, but she doesn't really understand. She is so feisty and fiercely independent. But in moments during the night, they still call for you. And Pickle lays outside and watches for your car. And this is really just so much bullshit. But Adam, I want you to know we're gonna be okay. You gave us so much love, and you filled our lives with goodness and patience and strength. And Harrison, Birdie, and I, we always wanted more of you. And we will use all the gifts you gave us to rebuild our life. I will carry the lessons of love you taught me every day. I was so spoiled by your love, Adam. And I am determined to build our life with so much heart and care and intentionality like you. I'm going to end my letter with what you wrote to me of your hopes and dreams for your life when we first started writing to one another in 2014. You wrote to me, I want to live a good life, one that stands up to what I believe to be morally right, to work in a field that truly helps people, to live compassionately, honestly, and truthfully, to never stop seeking the truth about the majesty of our existence in this incredible universe. But more than any of those dreams and desires, I want to find someone to spend the rest of my life with, to raise a family, and to bring my children up in a way that will alter the self-absorbed way of our modern life. That's what I want most in life, Kate. And I would be happy and proud of any path that leads to that. But my most important goal is to raise a family lovingly and well. You accomplished your dreams, Adam, and you did it in 37 years. You are so loved. Harrison, Birdie, and I will be looking for signs of you everywhere. So please keep an eye on us. I love you forever. Kate.
me to be a little baby? Yeah. Okay. I got this thing you got going on. Yo, 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 it's your boy, HD Squizzle. Say what's in the page unstuck by me, who found no turning yonder present question, where it watches twirling, silent and goodly hands underneath the mountain, right against the forest. Damn it!
Adam, we send you off with laughter, with weeping, so long for your presence with us. You are now amongst the wide open spaces that span across the waters. You are now a resident of the stars and live within the light of our hearts. We will continue to mourn your absence. We will continue to give thanks for all that your life offered us. We will continue to be family to Kate and your children. We will continue to remember your joy and that it too knew grief and mourning. Even though you no longer share the air we breathe, we will make sail, as you have encouraged us to do, trusting that you are already in the wind and that the rest will follow. In the name of the love that you shared, may all fear be cast aside, and may joy light our paths. friends, Kate, felt like we might need some of these. So there's a whole basket of these back there by the pictures. So feel free to take one and enjoy the rest of the time with merriment and telling of stories.
Where you going, I don't mind. My words and I killed my time. So where do I go? What do I see? See many people coming after me. Where are you going? I don't mind. It's too long, I'm afraid I'll die. So I will follow you wherever you go. If your open hand is still open to me, strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one. So you've been where I've just come, from the land that breaks, loses all. So we will share this road we walk. Mind our mountains and beware our talk. There'll be spell find me, or what do I do? All the things I own, I will share with you.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. We're going to wrap this broadcast up. Long live Adam.
Give the rest away. Strangers on this road we are on. We are not two, we are one. Holy man, holy priest. This love of life makes me weak in the knees. And when we get there, make your day. But soon I feel you're gonna carry us away. And I promise